Let us give spiritual comfort to the people. In the old days, 6 out of 10 people were truly God fearing, 2 somewhat so, and the other 2 indifferent, but even they still had some faith in them. Today it's not like that. I don't know where this is all going, but I do know that we must now try to help people spiritually with all our might, just like in the old days. During the great flood with Noah's Ark, we must now try to save some from being spiritually maimed. This has to be done with great care. It will take a lot of discernment to see things from many points of view and try to comfort people spiritually. Do you think it's of any comfort to me to have so many people coming to my door, or that I want to see so many people? No, I don't, but under these conditions, these poor people need a little help. The reason I didn't become an ordained priest was so that I wouldn't have to deal with people, but now I'm far more involved with them. Yet God knows my disposition and gives me far more now than He would have if I were only to do what suited me. Often I have asked Panagia to provide for me a faraway and peaceful place, where I wouldn't see or hear anything, where I could pray for the whole world. But she won't listen. But when I pray for insignificant things, Panagia does listen to my prayer. I realize that now, when I am about to have to see a lot of people, God nails me down with an illness so I can get some rest. He doesn't give me that sweetness of prayer I used to have in the past, because if He did, I wouldn't be able to pull myself away. When I had it, it was very difficult for me to pull myself out of that spiritual condition when someone came to my Calvary. There in the Calvary, I become a program for the people. As I'm inside reading the Psalter, they are outside knocking on the door. I tell them in 15 minutes, and they shout, "Hey, Father, stop praying for a minute. God won't be offended if you do." That's how far they go. It's not only that I'll interrupt my prayer, but if I go outside, it's all over. I have to manage to finish all I can before then. By 6:30 in the morning, I have to have finished even my daily Vespers in order to manage. So for me, it's like all morning light of the Holy Glory. By the time you finish your orthros, I'm already all done with the Comboskoinia of the Vespers. If I get a chance to have some Antidoran in the morning, all's well and good. Afterwards, I can't even get a cup of tea. I'm dead. Ready to collapse. Even during Bright Week after Pascha, I had to observe the 9th hour and the 3-day rule. Whether you can or not, you must do it. One day, I don't know what obstacles people faced. Maybe there was a storm at sea and there was no boat, but no one showed up at the Calvary. Oh my, I had a day like those I used to have on Mount Sinai, when I lived in the cave of Saint Episteme. So you see, when the sea has a storm, I have calm, but when the sea is calm, then I have a storm. I could, of course, go somewhere on retreat. Do you know how many have offered to cover the expenses and send me to California or to Canada? You must come, they say. We have an hesychastrion there. If I should find myself in an unfamiliar place, it would be like I was in paradise. Nobody will know me, and I will have my rule to live as a monk as I desire. But you see, a soldier is discharged only after the war is over. Now we are at war, in a spiritual war. I must stay at the front lines. There are Marxists, Masons, Satanists, and so many others. There are so many who are possessed by demons, anarchists suffering from delusions, and they come to me asking me to bless their beliefs. And there are so many sent to me by others without any preparation. Some only to get rid of them, and others so that they won't be the ones to pull the chestnuts out of the fire. If you only knew how hard pressed I am from so many directions. I am so embittered by others' pain, but I feel consolation in my heart. If I were to go away, I'd see it as a retreat. abandoning the front line. It would be a betrayal. That's how I see it. It's not as if I set out to do these things or help the monasteries. I started out for one thing, and now I find myself doing something else, and how must I struggle? And you see, no one else is reacting. Who cares if people are trying to destroy the church? They will tell you, oh, it doesn't matter. They are like feathers in the wind, so as long as they are comfortable. How can they possibly be comfortable? They'll be made comfortable by Satan in the end. These are not honorable things. If I wanted to do what pleases me, well, you know how easy that would be. But the point is not to do what pleases me, but to do what pleases and brings consolation to others. If I were to think about my own ease and comfort, I could find a myriad of places and ways of doing that. But in order to enter the will of God, you have to be a doer of God's will, and not merely a servant of yourself.